I want to talk about a topic that I've heard a lot of Christians and specifically people from pulpits mention, and that's that Christians need to learn how to love themselves better. The scripture says that we should love our neighbor as ourselves. And what that means is if you don't love yourself really well, you can't love others really well. I want to talk about whether this is a biblical statement or whether it is not. If you all would do me a favor and smash the like and subscribe button. It just helps us get the gospel out to more people. When you like it, subscribe, shows YouTube that people enjoy hearing this, and then people who are not even born again get to hear this content and get to come to Jesus because of it. So anyways, I want to talk about what Jesus says about this passage, or in this passage, about loving your neighbor as yourself, and whether this has to do with us loving ourselves better. So obviously, this stems from the issue of people having this, depression, anxiety, worry, all of these fears and whatnot, and that they don't have a good value or a view of themselves, and they don't have a bunch of self-worth. Therefore, if they love themselves better, they'll be able to, in return, love others better. Because if you don't love yourself, how could you ever love somebody else? How could you give them what you don't have yourself? Sounds very convincing. It sounds very intriguing, but that doesn't mean it's necessarily biblical. Proverbs says there's a way that seems right to a man and it leads to destruction. It leads to death. And this is definitely in that category of something that leads to death, leads to destruction. This sounds really good, but is really unbiblical. Here's why. First off, when scripture talks about self and we need to love our neighbors ourselves, it's not referring to your view of your own self-worth. It has to do with your prioritizing of yourself. You as a person like to put you first. If you're hungry, you want to eat before other people. If you have a concern with something, you want to get your problems figured out first. If there's one person at your company who can get a raise because the company can't afford 3 raises and there's 3 of you, you're wanting to be first in line to get that raise. The point is that us as humans want us to be first and best and get what we want in all circumstances with little to no care for other people a lot of times, unfortunately. But what the gospel preaches is we're supposed to love our neighbor as ourselves. And what that means is we're supposed to love our neighbor and put our neighbor on as great of a pedestal as we put ourselves on in regards to how we prioritize ourselves. And ironically, it's actually the complete opposite of the teaching that people say, because the more you put yourself on a pedestal, the more you focus on putting you first, the more you try to love yourself in this kind of way, if you're calling that love, the more you end up actually not loving yourself. Because the more that you focus on making you the priority, the more you're always focused on you and unsatisfied with the next thing that you got. You finally got that raise and now you need something else because that wasn't enough. And now you've got the perfect relationship that you always wanted, but that relationship's just not cutting it anymore because we're expecting it to be better. Everything about you is not adding up to what you were hoping it to be because you were focused on you first. If you had $10 and you were about to eat dinner and you could have it, or that homeless guy over there could have it. Again, this is a really fundamental explanation of this. But you should be giving it to the person who is your neighbor. That is loving your neighbor as yourself. There's a need that you have. They have a need. You meet their need first. That's you loving your neighbor as yourself. This is what scripture teaches that loving your neighbor as yourself looks like. Actually, Jesus actually expounds more on this point in the book of Matthew, in chapter 16 of it, where he's giving a warning, or rather an explanation of what the church should be expecting when following Jesus, what it should look like. And in verse 24, he says, "Then Jesus said, if anyone wishes to come after me, he must deny himself and take up his cross daily. For whoever wishes to lose his life will find it, but whoever wishes to save his life will lose it, but whoever loses his life for my sake will find it. For what profit is it if a man gains the whole world yet loses his soul?" We live in a place today where everybody is trying to preserve themselves, focus on themselves, love themselves better in this kind of pagan context that we're talking about right now. And Jesus is asking us to deny ourselves. Because Jesus recognizes when and if we deny ourselves, then everything else will come into fruition. Everything else will come into place as it needs to in regards to you being able to love you best. The best that you can love yourself, the most satisfied, pleased, excited, and joy you will be with you is when you are not focused on you. Imagine if you looked in a mirror every single day for an hour, every single day, you would find any and every possible potential imperfection you could find in yourself, and you would end up hating your body after a while. In the same way, with us as Christians, when we focus on us and our problems and how we wish our day was better and how we had horrible traffic today and we wanted our food to taste better at dinner, but our waitress wasn't as good as we wanted it to be. It's all about you. When your focus is all about you, all of your problems become problems. There's this passage in Scripture in James 1 that talks about consider it pure joy when facing trials and tribulations of many kind, knowing that the perfection of your faith comes through you persevering through that trial. And the irony is so many Christians consider so many things in their lives, these trials and tribulations, these issues that they have. And if you just had a different perspective, a different mindset, you wouldn't even consider a lot of these things issues. You're making it an issue because you're so focused on you. Whereas if you were focused on Jesus, if you're focused on the kingdom coming to earth as it is in heaven, you wouldn't even have the capacity, the time, the energy to think about these things as issues. The things that were once issues to you are no longer issues because you are so focused on Christ crucified. Should you love yourself? Of course you should love yourself. Jesus paid a price for you. He obviously sees great worth in you, but you should find your worth and your love in yourself from what Christ has seen in you. Not because you did something good, not because you need to work on you better, not because you need to, no. This is because you're focusing on thanking and being thankful for what Jesus sees you as, what price he's paid for you so that you can focus on giving other people the same hope that you have received yourself. Appreciate you all. Love you, and I'll chat with you guys in the next one.